The Cheating Death podcast is a satirical program containing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not political. We are not religious. We are analytical, and perhaps a bit prodigious. The very way and nature of today's world is filled with calamity and choices that people so often fail to realize the implications of the decisions they make. But you realize what you have done. You are now listening to the Cheating Death podcast. On today's episode of the Cheating Death podcast, we provide a bit of insight into the Cold War in what is most likely going to be a series of episodes over the course of our lovely time together. Will we have an immediate 4-part series? No, because given the nature of today's realm, we must ensure that the time is divided appropriately. We also provide an all-new Annihilation Announcement, an all-new joke of the episode, a top 5 list, and of course much, much more, dear listeners. We kindly request that you follow the Cleric of Chaos at youtube.com/@Cleric of Chaos as we are trying to reach 100 subscribers before the end of summer, as well as please follow the Backroom Comedy Club on Instagram.com/Backroom Comedy Club for lovely shows 5 days of the week at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. And please be sure to follow all of the legendary comedians, associate producers, and consultant extraordinaires at all the links in the episode's description. You know, dear listeners, that you have made a choice when it comes to your programming solutions, and we are very grateful for your ears because it is time for you to grab an iced coffee and put your feet up and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Within a mind, there are so many questions we ask ourselves over the years as we age, grow, mature, and our values and moral systems either take stronger hold or they change through the course of time. We do not allow ourselves enough opportunity for grace, patience, and understanding. How is it that I know this, you ask? Well, it's quite simple. Look around you, dear listener. Look at the amount of people in whom spend their time walking around society, whether it be in a city, a township, a hamlet, a megatropolis, or so on. Look at how many people are just feeling the motions, going along with the vibes, going second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, because they're too afraid to plan for the future, in the thought that their future may not turn out as to how they hope it will turn. These questions that we ask ourselves on a daily basis and these systems that we put ourselves through, 9 times out of 10, have next to no application towards our existence, towards the brightness of the sun, or towards the spinning of this pale blue sphere in which we are upon. Ask yourself, dear listener, when was the last time that you looked into the mirror and you gave yourself respect, understanding, or praise for what you have done? When was the last time you provided yourself with a treat for accomplishing a certain task or getting through a particularly rough work day? Or is it that we are all confined to reliving the same misery over and over and over again? We constantly seek answers to questions that are not asked yet, and yet in these situations we find ourselves at risk of losing the very nature and losing ourselves, our minds, our hearts, our souls, only to conform to that to which may bring us hope, promise, and chance. We create our own misery sometimes, dear listener, and it is during these particular times that we understand that there is no other option other than to go through the potential obstacle at hand. One of the reasons we provide these news reports at the beginning of each episode, your Annihilation Announcement, is because we are always trying our best to do what we can to get through the slings and the arrows of mired beasts of geopolitical turmoil, insurmountable socio-economic strife, and constant daily calamity. The Annihilation Announcement is meant to serve as an opportunity for you to look inside your soul and believe exactly what you are capable of. For life is too short, hardships are too long, but we are all here together. We are all fighting for similar causes, similar purposes, and nearly identical chances of survival. But, dear listener, whenever you look in the mirror, all we ask of you is that you do your best to see the beautiful soul that we do. For you are capable, you are benevolent, you are strong. In your wake there shall be no one that leads to your destiny other than you. We move forward in a way that is conducive and beneficial to our future. But do your best to give yourself a little bit of love and respect throughout the way. This has been your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this has been your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht ist deine Reisende und deine Ausländer, deine Allesfresser, deine Schauspieler, deine Deutschlander, deine Vernichter und deine Künstler. Und ich bin es wahrscheinlich, wie keines dich vier. Ich bin ist Wein, mein Herz ist gebrochen. Und ich bin bereit und heute ist eine schöne Tage. Dear listeners, we are here today to discuss the very nature, the elements, the circumstances behind the Cold War. This is most likely going to be the first part of a several-part series that will take part over the course of the program. For many reasons, there is just way too much information to encompass or embody a 44-year conflict, 47 years if you count 1945 and the solution and formation of the German Democratic Republic. However, this particular episode, part 1 of we are not sure how many parts there will be yet, an absolute bare minimum of 4 parts over the course of our podcast's history, in which we will provide you with objective and insightful and direct information as to the formation and the reasons behind the North American Treaty Organization and the Warsaw Pact. we take into consideration exactly how long was the real and true Cold War, ladies and gentlemen. Now, understand that the end of World War II was filled with much geopolitical turmoil, exactly which territory was going to belong to who, exactly who was going to form a new world, a new entity, a new nation, a new system, a new infrastructure, a new socioeconomic culture for each side to take part of. We look at today's current organization of the North American Treaty Organization and its member states, as well as we still look at the Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance, otherwise known as the TFCMA, which was between the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc social republics. We look at the differences between what took place then, how it shaped our world, and how we look at exactly what the world provided an opportunity for each particular side of the spectrum to deliver upon. The Cold War, a beautiful yet brutal time in the nature of our world, and it was obviously after the end of the Cold War itself, established formally and directly on the 12th of March 1947, with ending on the 26th of December 1991. The solution to the end of the Second World War, dear listeners, was not necessarily for the United States of America and its allies to own any particular area, geographically, geopolitically, or much, much more. No, the point of the Cold War was to further escalate tension and turmoil between capitalism and communism, between the ideologies specific and direct to the advancement of technological capability. There are so many different ways in which the Cold War was brought upon through just an ideology system of difference, of communism being better than capitalism, of capitalism being better than communism, and the Soviet Union doing the best that they possibly could post-Cold War to gain as many allies within the Warsaw Pact as humanly possible. Most of you by this point are aware that your host, the Cleric of Chaos, was born in Leipzig, Germany, during the end of the Soviet Union. The Berlin Wall had not yet fallen yet, and both the paternal and maternal sides of our family were rife with socioeconomic strife. Our mother being Canadian-born, our father being German-born. There were a list of conflicts and issues within both nations that led to a lot of operations and conditions being carried out throughout the course of this particular time. We see the differences between now and then, dear listener, but the Cold War was more so an opportunity for each side to install satellite governments in occupied territories that led directly to the Korean War of 1950 to 1953. American involvement in regime change took the part of power as well as economic aid in the attempt to win the loyalty of what one would categorize as, quote, non-allied countries, non-allied systems. And in and of itself, note that in 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, one of the primary reasons why this took place is predominantly due to the communist system in which Cuba had relied upon, in which it had been running upon, and they were slowly gaining technological capability to compete with the Allied nations or the North American Treaty Organization in and of itself, and as such the Cuban Missile Crisis in the Bay of Pigs was coined by Jonathan Fitzgerald Kennedy as being the most potential danger that the world had faced to nuclear annihilation at the time. We also look and understand that through this particular turmoil, the Vietnam War was a direct response to the Cold War in and of itself. The calamity that faced, the struggles that were brought upon, were brought into us into a particular way in which, over a 20-year period between 1955 and 1975, both the United States and Vietnam had fought vigorously and contentiously, given themselves an opportunity to see exactly what was possible. The United States thought it was going to be easy to crush Vietnam. However, they were in for a battle in whom no one was prepared for. The Vietnam War itself has covered quite a bit of territory over the course of popular media over the years. One look no further than Oliver Stone's Platoon, or one of the most popular movies, Full Metal Jacket, to see exactly what the Cold War had done to soldiers on both sides of the equation. We look at the fall of the Berlin Wall as being the most important part of the Soviet Union's downfall, when in actuality it began much earlier, when the United States of America decided to join the space race. After the Soviets were the very first to launch a satellite into space known as Sputnik 2, we know, without a doubt, that the confines and the configuration of the technological race to ensure that individuals were winning this proverbial Cold War were second to none. However, the Cold War led to a lot of strife, a lot of famine, a lot of socioeconomic insecurity, and a lot of issues within. How did it lead to these situations, dear listeners? Well, you're going to have to tune in to part 2, because we have an idea and tricks up our sleeves. You may not have to wait long, or it may be a while before you get part 2, but dear listener, when part 2 does arrive, you will have an idea as to exactly what it holds. The technological space race, the reasons behind the building of arms, and seeing exactly who was going to win this phallus measuring contest between Soviet nations and capitalist countries. Until next time, dear listeners, thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. They often ask, why does war never change? Well, there is one element of it that never changes, dear listeners, and that, of course, is mass casualties. At the top of today's program, we promised you a top 5 list, dear listeners, and we will not disappoint, as today's list, given that we are surrounding the Cold War, we are going to give you a list of our current top 5 favorite Eastern European cities. So without further ado, let's cross the border and dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have Krakow, Poland. Coming in at number 4, we of course have Prague in the Czech Republic. Coming in at number 3, we have one of the sweetest and smoothest Eastern European cities, and that would be Budapest in Hungary. Coming in at number 2, we have the lovely, lovely town of what some would categorize as the most derelict but also beautiful areas, Bucharest, Romania. Coming in at number 1, dear listeners, we of course have a tie between Leipzig and Dresden, Germany. What are your top 5 favorites? Feel free to comment in the video below or email us at thegtnetpodcast@gmail.com. Throughout its 44-year span, the Cold War provided an ample opportunity for individuals, organizations, countries, affiliates, and programmers alike to explore exactly what was possible through the arms of the space race, through the arms of industry fall, and changes within the soul, dear listener. We look at ourselves now as individuals or countries, places, and people in whom are free from the slings and the arrows of the Maya beast of what was once the Cold War, the Soviet Union, communism, and the establishment of the freedom of choice. However, if you take a closer look and you inspect the current state of geopolitical calamity, you will know, dear listener, that the very political system in and of itself in many countries claims to be democratic, however, in practice, turns out to be anything but that. We ask ourselves so many questions over the course of our lives, exactly what we can do, what we can think, how we can feel. But during the Cold War, in many nations east of the Prime Meridian, they were not able to think for themselves. They were not able to form their own opinions, lest they be subject to the demise of not only their character, not only their independence, but also their very lives. How we moved forward beyond the Cold War is still subject to interpretation. for it has only been 35 years since the formal end of the proverbial Cold War, dear listeners, with the fall of the Berlin Wall and everything taking place throughout the restructuring of the 80s and into the early 90s. It was quite clear that this particular war was more than just a war of ideologies, more than just a war of technology. It was a very war against what it meant to be human itself. Exactly how individuals and entities within each particular government chose to move forward with leading their people into a proverbial brighter tomorrow. The way that we view the Cold War from this particular perspective as of this moment in time is still lacking in critical bits of information, which is insane when you think about the different access to resources that we all have, the systems in which we have made our own, and exactly how these particular nations fell victim to the Soviet Union claiming them as another geopolitical as well as geographical territory. We must avoid the mistakes of the Cold War. We must move forward in a way that gives us an opportunity to see exactly what holds for our future as countries, sovereign nations, and particular members of the Commonwealth, or members of the international conglomerates known as the North American Treaty Organization, and so much more. We owe ourselves an opportunity to not repeat the mistakes of the past, but that will enable us to see what the future holds. Until next time, dear listeners, thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Noch Den Leben CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all podcasts on all platforms. If you'd like to support the program, you may do so by buying merchandise, purchasing a cameo, or buying us a coffee at the links in the episode's description. Please be sure to follow each and every single one of our directors, associate producers, comedians, actors, professional wrestlers, associate consulates, and consultants extraordinaires. Follow the legendary Damon Charles over at Instagram.com as well. Please follow the legendary comedian extraordinaire Mr. Darren Burke over at the Instagram pin profile post. Please follow Alex Burke, the Backrooms Comedy Club, as well over at Instagram.com/BackroomComedyClub, and note that they have beautiful shows every single day, Wednesday through Sunday at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Get your tickets now, 814 Bloor Street West in Toronto, Ontario. We'd also like to thank Dundas Shawarma at 768 Dundas Street West in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, for providing the best pizza and shawarma this side of the city, as well as the lovely, the loyal, the delicious W Burger Bar at 10 College Street in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Open 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. Specials from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., including but not limited to beef sliders and fries and chicken tenders and fries for just $6.50. $2.25 Pabst Blue Ribbon all day, $9.99 fish bowls, and $6.99 frozen cocktails. Make your lunch trip a memorable one at W Burger Bar. And of course, dear listeners, if you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, emergency calamities, gambling abuse, substance withdrawal, and much, much more, please visit the emergency telephone numbers listed in the links in the episodes and in the podcast description as well. If you or anyone you know are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center, as they are in dire need of your support. Visit yummypets.com/voice, sign up for a free account, and click the button every day for shelter animals to have their chance to receive 330 pounds of free kibble. And dear listeners, we also kindly request that you follow the Cleric of Chaos at youtube.com/@Cleric of Chaos, and follow all of his social media to boost the numbers, as we are trying to get 100 YouTube subscribers by the end of the summer, which is around the 22nd of September. And if you are looking for a reason to find a way to live, look inside the mirror, dear listener, because life is not a one-track solution. It is not an easy road to follow, but it is your road, and you are worth it. Remember, we are pulling for you. We're all in this together.